all that. Welcome, Jeff, on the topic of decent work, pandemic impact on workers' expectations. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Judy. It's great to be here. Different than Stuart's presentation, I'm going to be focusing on people generally working in larger organizations, people who are in the formal workplace. But I think you'll find some interesting overlap between the two presentations. So let me start. Much has been speculated about how the pandemic will shape employee expectations about the workplace. And I'll be the first to admit I don't have a crystal ball, but based on history and our humanity, some predictions can be made regarding what is likely to occur. What we see, collected from employee surveys and interviews, is that many of the current patterns in the data are similar to the patterns we saw after 9/11 and during the Great Recession, which began in 2007. But when we look at patterns of data from employees, we have to be careful not to paint with too broad of a brush. While there's a statistical distribution with every trait, truth be told, there are more similarities than differences when it comes to the specifics of what workers want from the world of work. Before I get into those similarities and differences and patterns in the data and how best to respond to them, there's a fundamental tenet I would like to put forth. The underlying human psychology, which drives the fundamentals of what workers want from the workplace, has not changed during this pandemic. It did not change after 9/11, it did not change after the Great Recession, and it's very unlikely to change anytime soon. What does and can change is how those fundamentals are fulfilled. Let me cover a few of those fundamentals to illustrate. First, the sense of equity, that for the effort I put in, I'm given a fair return. That return is measured in terms of compensation and benefits. The benefits can be varied, and then each person will put a different weight on the value of those benefits, such as job prestige, organizational mission, development opportunities, resume building, insurance, flexibility, vacation time, retirement plans, time to retirement, and job security. Many people, for instance, will take a job with lower compensation if they can retire after 20 years with health insurance and a pension. Others will take a job and work under less satisfying conditions if the organization is viewed as serving a higher purpose. What combination people value in terms of compensation and benefits is varied and can and does change over time. Sometimes this is driven by life stage or by impacts of significant events, such as technological advances, economic crises, attacks by foreign actors, or pandemics. So after a pandemic, people still desire equitable treatment, but the factors that create that equitableness can and will change, not necessarily for all, but at least for some. The second fundamental is being treated with respect and dignity. I defy you, and I haven't seen anyone out there in 35 years of looking, I defy you to find a worker anywhere in the world of any generation from any culture that doesn't want to be treated with respect and dignity, pathology aside. This does not change over time and is a constant. Respect and dignity are so often used in conjunction with one another that they've become joined at the hip as a unified concept, not only in the world of work, but also in our day-to-day conceptual thinking as well. Dignity is often defined as a person's freedom to write their own life story. That requires freedom from oppression and has within that notion both rights and obligations. One right is of control over oneself and one's body, and an obligation would be to take responsibility for your behaviors and actions. Maintaining dignity in the world of work, using that definition, is a balancing act. If dignity is about the right to choose, and as one enters an employment situation, one is giving up at least some dignity in that you're working not necessarily to your own ends on your own initiatives, but on organizationally defined goals and often on an organizationally defined schedule. The third factor is organization effectiveness, which also includes effectiveness of leadership. One of the factors causing people to quit an organization is if they experience frustrations day to day in getting their work done. While there are always exceptions, by and large, people want to work, they want to contribute, and they want to do a good job. One piece of evidence for this is that people who are overworked have higher levels of job satisfaction than people who are not given enough to do, which generates feelings of being less valued. Organization effectiveness has both an internal component, how well is the place being run, and an external component, do we offer products and services that are attractive and of high quality? And a fourth fundamental factor that each employee wants to have is a sense of personal future, a career path, and each is chasing their own personal rainbow. Here's the thing though, no one has ever seen someone else's rainbow. A rainbow is created when a beam of light passes through water droplets, is diffracted, and shines on the color receptors in your eye. When two people look at a rainbow, even if they're standing side by side, they are seeing different rainbows, different light beams passing through different water droplets, reflecting uniquely off the color receptors in their eyes. Their respective rainbows may appear very similar, but as each of us perceives a rainbow, we're perceiving a unique image, an image that no one else perceives. Organizations are constantly looking for their own rainbows, or perhaps more accurately, the mythical pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. They create all sorts of messaging to motivate employees to see the same rainbow that the leader at the top of the organization sees. But just as each person needs to see rainbows their own unique way, each employee needs to internalize organizational goals in their own fashion. Employees can get on board with the organizational vision, but just as each of us has a unique vision, our own personal rainbows, each of us will have a unique vision of why we work to achieve the organizational goals, no matter how similar we think it might be. During this pandemic, it'll come as no surprise if I say that stress levels have increased. And while stress levels have been steadily increasing over the past decades, during the pandemic, it would not be unusual to see responses in the mid 80s to mid 90s. In other words, the vast majority of the workforce is very stressed. No surprise, women with either preschool age children or school age children are the most stressed. They're often juggling work, remote schooling, lack of childcare options, canceled after school activities, running a household, and perhaps an aging parent or two. While many organizations are concerned about the stress levels employees are experiencing and trying various strategies, such as closing on a Friday or mandatory vacation time, as we make changes, such as everyone back to the office, the changes themselves can be stress inducing, even if done with the best of intentions. An organization will not be able to eliminate stress, but it can help employees cope with it. One of the causes of stress is lack of information. The lack of information, along with increased levels of fear, driven by the unknown of a novel disease, increases anxiety. Take anxiety, throw in media reports of panic buying, and you get runs on toilet paper, on milk, eggs, etc. The desire for information is clearly indicated in the data as an insatiable desire, as it reduces the uncertainty and stress people are feeling. Ominously, in the absence of accurate information, people make up their own stories or are open to lies and false information. Employees want to hear the truth and they want to hear it from the top of the house. You cannot over communicate to your employees at this point, and they will be grateful for it. In times of uncertainty, the ratings of leadership in terms of trust and competence improve significantly. In uncertain and fear-inducing situations, effective, decisive leadership, which points to a solution path, is strongly desired. And employees are willing to give leadership the benefit of the doubt, at least until proven otherwise. This is a pattern we've seen over and over. What happens, though, is that organizations rarely, if ever, can hold on to the gains in ratings of leadership as the crisis subsides. In uncertainty, leadership is often more visible, communicates more, giving reassurances where possible, and that visibility and high level of communication dissipates. As it dissipates, so do the enhanced scores. As a leader, be as visible as possible to your folks. Do not simply retreat into the war room to plan out options and contingencies. Talk to them, listen to them. Oftentimes, in situations of uncertainty, chaos in the workplace increases. There's a school of thought out there that chaos is a good thing, that it increases innovation and drives higher levels of performance. But be assured it does no such thing. Chaos, by definition, makes less information available to staff. Chaos is not an organizing principle or a way to achieve a higher level of creativity or performance. It is simply chaos and leads to greater uncertainty. This is not a good time to reorganize or move people around without very good reasons. Reducing chaos by increasing information flow should be the goal. Be as clear as possible about what the organization is doing to cope with the situation and provide as much information as possible regarding the impact on each organizational member. Give people as much agency as possible. This is a path towards increasing dignity. Get people involved in solving problems, give them as much control over their own paths as possible. After 9/11, for instance, those employees who were actively involved in restoring one company's operation located at ground zero saw dramatic increases in satisfaction, pride, and engagement compared to another group not involved at the same company. Work towards restoring or increasing employee confidence. And remember, it's likely that every single one of your employees in one fashion or another has struggled. Confidence can be impacted by improving the way you conduct business, improve the internal processes and relationships, tackle issues that will increase effectiveness, but perhaps have been put off, and do so in a visible, communicative fashion. Reinvigorate the organization's competitiveness. Ensure that your services and products are current and competitive. Communicate to your staff what you're doing to enhance competitiveness. Provide current reassurance. Assure that organizational members can thrive in the current environment. What do they need to be effective, and what special circumstances are they dealing with? Take a long-term view of staff member development and opportunity. The value proposition to employees is to provide skills and experiences that equips them for a meaningful career, not for a specific job. And finally, remember how people react to COVID is not uniform and will vary based on individual differences and will also be dependent on personal circumstances. What we do know about people is that when they are appropriately supported and feel safe, there's a tremendous amount of resilience and people can bounce back from adversity. Thank you.